Travis the Chimp was born on the 21st of October
1995.
at the Missouri Chimpanzee Sanctuary, which was then known as Chimparty, in the town of Pheasants, Missouri. Susie and Coco, his parents, were wild-caught chimpanzees who were brought to the U.S. from Africa in the 1970s. Susie's mother had lived in a zoo before being sent to the refuge. She escaped and posed a danger to those living nearby, so she was killed there in 2001. Travis's life changed a lot 3 days after he was born when he was taken away from his mother. This is a standard technique in the exotic animal trade to help animals associate with their human caregivers. Then, for $50,000 in cash, he was sold to Sandra and Jerome Harold, a couple from Stamford, Connecticut. The Harolds, who operated a prosperous towing business, named him Travis after the country artist Travis Tritt. Upon arriving at the Harolds' house in the upscale North Stamford area, Travis was integrated into the family's everyday life in every imaginable manner. He wore clothes that were designed just for him, ate meals at the table, and even learned how to use utensils. Sandra and Jerome treated him like a surrogate kid, especially after the devastating death of their only daughter, Susan, in a vehicle accident in 2000. This sad occurrence deepened Sandra's emotional dependency on Travis, whom she viewed as her lifeline. After Jerome's death from cancer in 2004, Sandra's closeness with Travis developed further. She began sharing her bed and even her bath with him, later saying that only individuals who had eaten and bathed with a chimpanzee could completely grasp the experience. Travis's childhood made it hard to tell the difference between people and animals. He learned to brush his teeth with a water pick, drink wine from stem glasses, and operate household equipment such as television remotes and laptops. He often accompanied the Harolds to their business, where he would ride in the passenger seat of the tow truck, buckled in with a seatbelt, and pose for photos with clients. Travis also acquired a taste for luxury cuisine, including lobster tails, felt mining, and nighttime desserts like ice cream and chocolates. His sedentary lifestyle and lavish diet eventually led to considerable obesity, with his weight reaching 240 pounds by 2009, about twice the norm for a male chimpanzee. Travis's remarkable adaptation to human routines earned him a local celebrity. He appeared in national commercials for Old Navy and Coca-Cola and was featured on television programs, although various publications questioned whether he was the sole chimpanzee utilized in these productions. In Stamford, Travis was known for his ability to communicate with the community. He welcomed police officers, hailed down ice cream trucks for rewards, and even drove the family's Corvette on occasion. Neighbors often described him as nice and obedient, with some commenting that he listened better than their own children. Despite his domesticated nature, there were early signs of problems. In 1996, when Travis was barely a year old, he bit a woman's hand. However, the Harolds disregarded it as playful behavior. As he aged, the risks connected with retaining him became more obvious. After Jerome's death, Sandra grew more reclusive, and Travis was confined inside more frequently, deprived of outdoor stimulation and social engagement with other chimpanzees. He spent most of his time watching television and eating snacks, which not only contributed to his physical degeneration, but also likely affected his psychological well-being. Then in October 2003, a significantly more serious episode happened when Travis was 8 years old. While Sandra was driving him through Stamford, a bystander hurled an empty soda bottle at their vehicle, which entered through a slightly open window and hit Travis. Startled and agitated, Travis unbuckled his seatbelt, let himself out of the vehicle, and started pursuing the pedestrian. He then tumbled about on the road, jumped on cars, and held up traffic at a busy intersection. The pandemonium persisted for nearly 2 hours, with Travis evading police and animal control agents who tried to entice him back into the car. He repeatedly freed himself from the vehicle, and on many occasions he chased cops around the automobile. Witnesses described the incident as both alarming and bizarre, as the chimpanzee darted between automobiles and interacted with people. This event was a significant red flag. Animal control officials and primatologists who reviewed the case advised Sandra and local authorities that Travis, now a mature adult chimpanzee, had the strength of many adult men and was inherently unpredictable. Experts cautioned that maintaining such an animal in a household environment was extremely dangerous and recommended that the Harolds consider moving Travis to a sanctuary where his needs could be better satisfied and the public would be protected. Despite these warnings, no formal action was taken. Instead, the Harolds replied by restricting Travis's public trips, keeping him isolated from their house. This shift in routine deprived Travis of stimulation and exercise, further increasing his behavioral and physical concerns. He became increasingly sedentary, spending his days watching television, eating junk food, and playing on the internet, which contributed to his rising fat and likely aggravated his psychological stress. In the years after the 2003 escape, there were additional, less publicized incidents that revealed Travis's behavior was growing more troublesome. According to some stories, Travis escaped from his cage and had to be tranquilized by officials barely 6 months before the important event that we are going to cover that happened in 2009. Legal records acquired by the Hartford Courant indicated that this incident would become a major issue in Charlotte Nash's case against the state as proof that authorities had ignored rising warning flags. There were also unsubstantiated allegations of a 1998 biting event, although most sources agree that the 1996 and 2003 occurrences were the most noteworthy prior to 2009. The cumulative impact of these incidents painted a picture of an animal whose needs and instincts were fundamentally incompatible with living in a human environment. Primatologists and animal behavior experts were clear in their assessments. Duvall, a renowned primatologist, likened keeping a mature male chimpanzee as a pet to keeping a tiger. He remarked that chimpanzees kept as pets sometimes believe themselves part human, but their strength and aggression, particularly when they reach maturity, make them time bombs in domestic settings. Front and others pointed out that no matter how well trained or acclimated a chimpanzee may appear, the animal's untamed tendencies might surface unexpectedly, particularly under stress or in strange surroundings. Fast forward to the 16th of February, 2009, Travis, then 14 years old, launched a violent assault on Charlotte Nash, a close family friend and former employee of the Herald's Towing Company. The incident not only upset individuals involved, but also spurred a nationwide discussion about the dangers of keeping wild animals as pets. The day started with Travis exhibiting signs of agitation. He had taken Sandra's vehicle keys and fled the home, a behavior that was remarkable but not entirely unprecedented for the highly intelligent chimp. Travis, who was familiar with handling domestic items and had a habit of emulating human routines, looked restless and uncooperative. Sandra, unable to coax him back inside, contacted Charlotte Nash for aid. Nash, who was 55 years old at the time, had known Travis for years and had worked closely with the Herald family. She arrived at the house, bringing with her a Tickle Me Elmo doll, one of Travis's favorite toys, hoping it would convince him to come inside. However, other things may have contributed to what transpired afterward. Nash had lately altered her haircut and was driving a new automobile. These seemingly insignificant facts may have confused or scared Travis, who, despite his acquaintance with Nash, was already in a heightened state of tension. Compounding this, Sandra had earlier given Travis tea laced with Xanax, a prescription anti-anxiety medication intended for humans, in an effort to calm him. Travis was also being treated for Lyme illness at the time, and the effects of these treatments on a chimpanzee's behavior are not fully understood. As Nash approached with the Elmo doll, Travis's conduct turned instantly aggressive. Without notice, he lunged at Nash and launched a savage assault. The onslaught was extraordinarily brutal and persistent, lasting approximately 12 minutes, a duration that must have seemed like an eternity for those engaged. Travis used his immense strength to overcome Nash, biting and tearing at her face, scalp, and hands with terrible ferocity. He tore away her nose, lips, eyelids, and hands, and inflicted many fractures to the bones of her face anatomy. Nash was left blind, and her injuries were so severe that first responders could not immediately identify her gender. Sandra, witnessing the incident, urgently tried to interfere. She initially tried to subdue Travis by bashing him on the head with a shovel. When this failed to stop the attack, she resorted to stabbing Travis in the back with a butcher knife. Despite her efforts, Travis's onslaught persisted until Nash was left lifeless on the ground. Realizing the enormity of the situation, Sandra locked herself in her vehicle and called police. The call, which would later be revealed to the public, captured the sheer terror and anguish of the moment. Sandra's desperate appeal for help included the now iconic phrase, "He's eating her, kill him, and bring the guns." "You have to murder this chimp." Her terror was apparent, and Travis's screams could be heard in the background as she urged dispatchers to send armed officers. Emergency medical services arrived on the site but waited for police support before accessing the house. Given the apparent risk presented by the rampaging chimp, When police arrived, Travis, now covered in blood and still furious, approached a patrol car. He tried to access a locked passenger door and in the process smashed a side view mirror. Officer Frank Chafari, who had known Travis from previous amicable meetings in the community, was presented with a dire situation. As Travis circled the cruiser and managed to unlock the driver's side door, Officer Frank fired 4 shots with his service handgun, striking Travis. Despite being shot, Travis did not instantly fall. Instead, he screamed and withdrew inside the house, leaving a trail of blood as he moved through the kitchen and bedroom before finally falling and dying in his own room close to his cage, a spot that had once been his refuge. With Travis neutralized, first responders raced to Nash's side. The scene was regarded by paramedics and police as one of the most gruesome they had ever experienced. Nash's face was unrecognizable, and her hands were either fully amputated or left as mangled stumps. Nash, despite her horrific wounds, was still aware and attempted to reach out for aid with what was left of her arms. She was rushed to Stanford Hospital, where a team of doctors labored for more than 7 hours to stabilize her and manage her catastrophic injuries. Within 72 hours, Nash had undergone many operations to repair her face and hands, but doctors soon discovered that she would be permanently blind owing to infections in both eyes. Her injuries included the loss of her eyelids, nose, lips, and mid-face bone structure, as well as 9 fingers. Surgeons removed Travis's hair and teeth that had gotten trapped in her bones and tried to reconnect her jaw. After initial treatment at the hospital, Nash was transported to the Cleveland Clinic for additional care and rehabilitation. Her family formed a trust fund to assist pay her immense medical expenditures and maintain her daughter. Nash's injuries made her a candidate for an experimental face transplant, which she would later undergo in Boston. The incident and its aftermath gained national and international attention, with Nash eventually disclosing her face to the public for the first time on the Oprah Winfrey program in November 2009. Meanwhile, Travis's corpse was transported to the University of Connecticut for a necropsy, as required by state law, to test for rabies and other potential diseases. His head and body were separated for inspection, and the results indicated that Travis was not at the time of the assault. Nash's family launched a $50 million lawsuit against Sandra, citing carelessness for keeping Travis despite earlier warnings and events. Nash also sued the state of Connecticut for $150 million, arguing that state authorities failed to act on known concerns. Sandra's defense maintained that the assault was unforeseeable, but animal behavior experts and supporters pointed to Travis's past and the inherent risks of having monkeys as pets. After the attack, Sandra faced profound legal and emotional turmoil. She was not prosecuted criminally for the event, but the case resulted in her assets being frozen throughout the legal proceedings. The incident, along with the previous losses of her only child and her husband, left her extremely depressed and more reclusive. In the years following the catastrophe, Sandra rarely left her house, grew increasingly withdrawn, and apparently plagued with hoarding. She put a plush chimpanzee in Travis's room for comfort, and at one point bought another chimp named Chance, albeit she could not keep him at her house and instead visited him out of state. Sandra's mental and emotional health continued to suffer under the weight of these losses and the ongoing lawsuit. She later started to venture out more, reconnecting with friends and even dating, but people close to her noted that she remained obsessed on Travis and the events that had transpired. On May 24, 2010, only 15 months after the assault, Sandra died suddenly at her Stanford home from a ruptured aortic aneurysm at the age of 72. Her counsel argued that the accumulation of heartbreaks, her child's death, her husband's dying, the loss of Travis, and the maiming of her friend Charlotte Nash had left her emotionally devastated. And quote, "In the end, her heart, which had been crushed so many times before, could take no more."